Hold on a second. Is the same guy as last time? Is Geoff really the best we can do for hosting this event? All right, let's spend some time together talking about how to market interactivity to attract interactive project opportunities to your business. This is a problem that Intuiface itself has confronted since I joined back in 2011. In fact, when I joined, it was one of the first problems we had to solve. How are we going to generate a qualified pipeline of opportunity to our business with little to no money? And it's certainly doable. We're doing it, but it does take a concerted effort and a focused effort. And that's what I hope to do today, is give you a sense of where to focus your efforts to better drive a well-qualified opportunity to your website, to your business. There are other means as well. Maybe you can talk to your potential customers. But let's explore that a little bit and give you some marching orders for building that interest. So our broad objective: coming up with a reliable, repeatable marketing approach for growing a pipeline of qualified leads. And we're going to talk about qualified in a moment, but we want something reliable and repeatable. It shouldn't be something you have to nurture and care for like a young innocent puppy. It should be something that can be self-sustaining, not require lots of nurturing, to have very low cost associated with it, to ensure that some way you can execute in a repeatable way throughout the year without straining your resources, and ideally doing all of this and being scalable at the same time. Meaning that you can increase or decrease your level of investment. That investment could just be resources, not necessarily dollars and cents, but to scale the level of resources you're using for those things that work and decreasing for those things that don't. What is that approach? Well, before we talk about that approach, I really want to make sure we're all in agreement about what we mean by qualified and why that's important. This isn't about generating leads. This is about generating qualified leads. And again, forgive me for a lot of you, of course, you know this, but I want to make sure we talk about it. A qualified lead has a high interest in your offering and has a high ability to purchase. They're interested in what you're offering and have the ability to spend money to purchase that offering. Your efforts, your marketing efforts, need to be focused on filtering for that interest. It is not a victory to have tons of leads coming to you through your website and none of them are qualified. In fact, that can backfire. You're spending all of your time weeding through these bad opportunities, these tire kickers that have really no intention of actually becoming a customer, preventing you from finding those diamonds in the rough and building a scalable, profitable business. So you need to make sure that the initiatives that you adopt, the marketing efforts that you put in place, are focused on generating qualified leads and not any lead. In terms of interest, I think that's very doable. We're going to discuss how that's done to make sure that from an interest perspective, they're very qualified. Can you filter based on their ability to purchase? That's tough. Maybe you could run a credit check on them or something like that. But chances are that's not the way you're going to do it. That's something you're going to figure out during the actual engagement, and you do this all the time anyway. So a little ambitious to think that we're going to filter people out to screen them based on ability to purchase, but on interest, absolutely. So, big picture. There are two different marketing approaches one can take to generate this pipeline. One is called Outbound and one is called Inbound. And we're going to talk about both of those. One of them works if you have a lot of resources, a lot of time, and I'm going to dissuade you from doing it. The other one is the right way to go to business. So let's talk about Outbound first. I'm leading with, which one do you think I'm leading with? The good one or the bad one? I shouldn't say good or bad. That's not fair. I mean, there are tons of businesses, particularly B2C. They're all about outbound marketing. But you guys are B2B. We need qualified leads. Outbound marketing, probably not the best. Well, let's talk about that. So outbound marketing is us broadcasting our message to the world. We're pushing it out to the world. It's outbound marketing. So that could be things like advertising, putting ads in on some relevant online digital magazine or running ads on some website. So you get the idea. In a way, outbound marketing, it would be trade shows, right? Where you're in a booth. It's a fairly qualified audience, but if you go to CES, it's a very broad range of interests and ability there. Prospecting is another example of outbound marketing. So prospecting could be cold calls, could be big email blasts where you get these giant lists of email addresses with some vague level of similarity, same industry, maybe something like that, and pumping out some message. The upside is that it's a large audience. I mean, that's the upside. It could be 1 million people. I bet it depends on how many people see your ad, right? The problem is it's expensive. Certainly advertising is a lot of money, but even prospecting, I don't know how much it's going to cost you. There are third-party services that enable you to buy email addresses, that sort of thing. But maybe you can do a lot of the research on your own, but it's expensive in terms of time. Because again, you're weeding through all of these low qualified opportunities. And frankly, it's intrusive. A lot of people like cold calls and getting those phone calls, getting those emails. And a scattershot. You have no idea if you're attracting the right people. You're just hoping the right people are caught in that big net full of fish. And it's not very reliable. Inbound marketing. So you got a sense for what I feel about outbound marketing. Let's talk about inbound marketing. And this is really where we're going to go deep. But at a high level, inbound marketing is coming up with ways to encourage people to come to you. You're creating content, material, things we'll discuss that are out there for people to find. And they're sort of self-qualifying by finding it. The fact that they found it self-qualifies them. It's already showing that they're interested in what you have to say, and then they come to you. That could be search engine optimization, could be content marketing, social media. I'm going to talk about those things. The beauty of inbound marketing is they're fairly controllable costs. I mean, frankly, it doesn't cost you anything to tweet. I mean, there's the salary of the person tweeting, I suppose, but okay. It doesn't cost anything to tweet. It doesn't cost you anything to write a white paper or a guest post. It really just costs you a little bit of your time. It can be very targeted. It's on a topic that you want to talk about, right? It's a very specific topic relevant to you, relevant to your business, and that's what you're talking about. And again, if somebody finds it and is interested in it, they've pre-qualified themselves. It's also self-sustaining. If I put an article out there, and this is something we do at Intuiface all the time, I personally write lots of guest posts for blogs like 69, as well as producing material for social media and talking at webinars, this kind of thing. That stays out there, even though I'm asleep. The article is still online and the webinar is still available for a replay. So it is self-sustaining. The challenge is competition. The challenge is, well, you're fighting for somebody's attention. And there's lots of things out there fighting for attention. And so that's sort of a challenge, but it's not really a problem. I mean, there's an opportunity buried in here. So what I'd like to do for the remainder of this session is kind of go a little deeper into how to concentrate your efforts on inbound marketing, how to focus on these 3 things that I just discussed. We'll walk through them. Make sure you understand what it means and give you a little sense of how to move forward with them. Search engine optimization. So this is the practice of increasing the quality and quantity of traffic to your website through organic search engine results. Organic essentially means you didn't pay for an ad or something, they found you. They typed in something into the Google search engine, into Bing, and up came your website. All of you, I imagine, know this. And I don't probably have to tell you that there's a lot of value here. I've got some statistics here on the screen. Organic search drives more than 50% of all web traffic. Paid is only 10. 93% of online experiences begin with a search engine. And just ask yourself how often you use a search engine, right? The reality is that's what we all do. Is when we start our research, we're probably Googling for something, or again, Bing or Yahoo, what have you. And it even offers a really high close rate versus traditional marketing. So it's very logical. It makes sense. There's a world of information and education about search engine optimization. But the general idea is to construct a website that is designed to attract attention. Keyword research is a big part of this. And this particular session is about interactivity. But of course, if your only keyword of interest is interactivity, you're fighting with tons of different things. And by the way, they're not all digital. I mean, interactivity is part of multiple worlds, not just digital signage or something like that. So when you do your research, you need to find something that's relevant, unique, not a lot of competition, right? It's kind of tricky. We actually outsource that. Intuiface outsources our SEO efforts We've enlisted a third party to help us identify the right keywords and to optimize the content on our website to make sure that it's juicy material for Google to latch onto. There are free tools like Google Keyword Planner, Google Trends. There's tons of paid software out there as well to help you find the right keywords, and then creating the right on-page content to make Google happy, right? Creating web pages that answer the searcher's questions. Can you anticipate what those questions are and create content on your website that rings Google's bell? There's also something called technical search engine optimization. This is sort of behind the scenes stuff that doesn't just make Google happy, but makes the people coming to your website happy. Frankly, even things like making sure your website loads kind of fast. There are tools like Scrapey here that will automatically, and a lot of it for free, tell you tons of things about what is optimized on your website, what could be done better, things you can do to tweak it from a performance perspective, making it more Google friendly, that sort of thing. A lot of these things, the sort of free tiers, give you a lot, and it's a really good start. And then finally, there's link building and authority. This is about making sure that people are linking to you. This is really one of the most important ingredients for making your website interesting to Google, is how interesting your website is for other authoritative websites. Or as they say, the EAT, expert, authoritative, and trustworthy. If these third-party EAT websites point to you, well then that's gold. That's really what you want. And it used to be that you'd pay these people to kind of stick links all over the web pointing back to your website, but Google's getting pretty smart and they can tell when you're just dumping links all over the place. So it's figuring out ways to not explicitly partner, but finding places where you can be listed, places that have high EAT pointing to you, and that makes Google super happy. The next is content marketing. This is about creating and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content to attract and retain a clearly defined audience and maybe ultimately drive some profitable customer action. But the focus here is on the content. You're creating valuable, relevant, and consistent content, something that people will be interested in, something you're going to make available and that they are going to find. I got some statistics here as well. Content marketing generates 3 times as many leads as outbound marketing and costs 62% less. Do you need another stat about content marketing? Again, I'm sure for most of you, I'm preaching to the choir. You're familiar with this. But the problem with content marketing is there is a lot of elbow grease involved, right? A lot of hands-on effort. It kind of is what it is, but let's look at what some of those things are. Guest posts. You write something that is run someplace else. I can tell you that all the industry, digital magazines, websites that report news on the industry and kind of monitor it are desperate for content. They're not usually big teams of people pounding the pavement. It's usually a small staff working their butts off to try to get content. If you can write guest post, not promoting your company at all, that's not the point. Something interesting and relevant to the audience that they're going to want to read, and the only thing there is your signature, your name and maybe your company. That's going to get out there. And even that builds enormous credibility for you and for your company. And again, you're pre-qualifying the audience. If they're reading it, they're already interested. I don't have to tell you what white papers are. Usually guest posts, they're a little more personality, a little more to the point, not too long, whereas white papers tend to be highly focused. They can be filled with jargon, typically go in depth. This is where you get to show off your skills and your deep knowledge. I know that you've gone to websites and found interesting collateral and material for something you want to look at. White papers can be really good at bringing somebody in and moving them down the funnel from awareness to consideration. And then webinars, which are low friction, meaning you don't have to worry about recruitment. You just kind of get it out there. People can connect if they want. They don't have to get dressed. They don't have to travel. There's no friction for participating. You're on screen. It's your personality. It's a really cool way to engage. Certainly, there's a promotion aspect to this, right? So guest posts, well, people are reading it anyway, but white papers and webinars, you should give some consideration to how the word gets out there. But the beauty is you can get leads, direct leads. Somebody wants a white paper, you got a lead. Somebody registers for your webinar, you got a lead, which is pretty great. Finally, social media. We all know social media, web-based communication tools enabling people to interact with each other, sharing information, consuming information. We all do it. So we got a whole bunch of cool stats about it. From our perspective at Intuiface, the big ones for us are Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And frankly, even Instagram is a little iffy, but we do some work there, certainly Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. There's also YouTube, Pinterest, and Snapchat. We haven't personally found them to be lead generators, but they're a good place to put content. In Intuiface, we use something called Buffer, which enables us to schedule social media posts in advance. So we don't have to be sitting around and doing it in real time, and we can plan a campaign for what do we want to say when, and we schedule, and Buffer just takes care of that for us. There are also a billion tools out there for helping you identify what's trending, where are the right audiences, to kind of help you focus on what to talk about, hashtags you should emphasize, and audiences you should target, that sort of thing. So basic rules of thumb is most of them should not be promotional. There's a bit of an 80-20 rule here. Just like with content marketing, you want to make sure that's really about a topic and not about you. Most of your tweets, most of your Facebook posts should be about the industry, should be about something interesting, not about you. Do it at least 3 times a week. We try to do it at least 3 times a week in each medium. And shove your personality in there. You don't want to look like a monolith, a machine. You want to look like a human being. So make sure you get that personality in there. It's a whirlwind tour, and I will take some questions at the end, of course, but my guess is you're not new to all of these things. It's just getting a quick look at what has worked for us and maybe a little sense of urgency for you to get moving. What I would advise is make sure you invest wisely. Learn from your mistakes. It's not going to work right away, and that's okay, or not necessarily. So make sure that you set your expectations appropriately, measure and monitor, and adjust on the fly. Make sure there's some level of volume. When you do content marketing, 1 article a year is nice, but can you do 1 a month, 1 a quarter, at least 1 a half, this sort of thing. Outsourcing, there's a whole budget issue here, which I understand, but it's something to consider. Should you be doing some outsourcing? We do. We've decided that SEO is too important and we just didn't have the bandwidth. But the reality is some of you don't have the budget, and it is what it is. But it doesn't mean that you're exempt from worrying about it and thinking about it. And we encourage you to do it. There's tons of software, third-party software tools out there that can help you. Watch your competitors. What do? Learn from them. Borrow, steal their ideas. There's no shame in that. What are they saying? What are they marketing about? What are they promoting? How do they go to market? Learn from those guys. And finally, force yourself. You probably know to do a lot of these things. You just haven't done it. And you really should force yourself. You need people to find you. You've got this amazing insight and capability. If they just knew who you were, they would be so intrigued. They'd want to work with you, but they've got to find you. You need to come up with ways that they can find you. And all this inbound marketing strategic approaches, I think, can help you do exactly that. I know it's really helped us. Thank you for your time and attention. I'm going to turn over Q&A to the SOSO host. Thanks so much.